Quick answer to a question I get a lot of the time. Why are your One Piece reviews so much more in-depth than your book ones? And it's because, one, this series has been out for quite a bit of time, and a lot of the books I review are just coming out, so it wouldn't really make sense to get in-depth to their plot lines because people don't want them to be spoiled. And two, with how long One Piece is, if I didn't get in detail, my reviews would become insanely redundant. Now, reviewing a First Law book versus a Lord of the Rings book, you can stay on the fairly abstract level and still get across a lot of the nuances, but One Piece arc versus One Piece arc, it would be a lot of the same, until here, because Punk Hazard is extremely divisive in my mind. There are a lot of successes and a lot of failures here. It's probably in the bottom 4 One Piece arcs I've read, but it also has some of my favorite elements and got me extraordinarily excited for what's to come. Let's start on the large scale and go on in. First, with the landscape. One side is a fiery hellscape, and the other is a frozen hellscape. In the middle, there's a pool. And well, aesthetically, it's just cool on a surface level. This barren wasteland, I think, also provides a backdrop that fits the themes and events of this arc exceptionally well. It's not as vibrant or colorful, it's bleak and dark, but that's intentional, because there's some of the darkest plot points that One Piece has had up until this point going on, including experimentation on children and chemical warfare. And there's this underlying theme I'm seeing develop within the One Piece world of the extremes people will go to for experimentation and increase of power with the magic that's already available. There's like no one's ever satisfied with just devil fruit. Everyone wants to keep escalating, monetizing, becoming more powerful and in control. There's this constant power grab going on that has been made all the worse by the events of 2 years prior, and we're seeing the ramifications of that here and now. And this makes me appreciate Luffy's character all the more because while on the surface level he's on a similar trajectory of like heading towards this grand treasure, he is completely morally incorruptible. Well, his morals are not perfectly pure. No one could ever corrupt Luffy to do something he does not want to do, and I would stake my reputation on that. There will never be a plot point in One Piece, I'm saying this not having caught up to what's out yet, where Luffy is actually forced to do something extremely morally reprehensible to get what he wants, and he does it. I just don't think that's in him. Now, how the island actually became divided is a result of a conflict between two people. We're not going to get into that right now. But in terms of introducing this new world, I'm such a fan. This actually finally felt like we were finally getting into what the time skip promised to me, something that is bigger, larger, and a more serious threat, whereas the last arc and honestly whole saga just really didn't provide that. It felt more like, okay, we're leaving behind the last little loose ends from where we were before, and now we are officially off on this new adventure. And this brings me to the villain, who lives up to that level of stakes increase as well. I really liked having this gaseous-based villain who has a devil fruit power that allows him to suck the oxygen out of a room and who's experimenting on kids and developing these super weapons. That's an appropriate escalation. His personality wasn't the most intimidating yet. I find Oda's villains to be the most kind of sinister when they're more held back or quiet, or super flamboyant. This one kind of fell in the middle, but their power and intention really made up for what else lacked. Plus, he was backed up by some really great support. The bird woman, whose name I have tried. I keep wanting to call her Montague, and that's Shakespeare. That's not right. She had one of the most interesting fights with Zoro to date, and wow, have I been waiting to see Zoro have a fight like this. Hot damn. And it felt so good to see him having some kind of fight that wasn't just a straight up sword fight, but required him to be unorthodox. That is exactly what Zoro needed, and as a huge Zoro fan, I actually think he's my favorite crew member now. Yes. I will maintain that Zoro is essentially like if you took Kaladin and Samwise and you just mushed him into one. He's the best friend, and he's a great tough little sad boy. And then we have another antagonist in Vance, Sticky Face Man is what I called in my head because that was a running joke, and one of the few bits of humor that actually worked in this arc. And he had a showdown and was just a presence as a whole that made up for some of the lacking intimidation we got from the primary antagonist. And well, Luffy's final showdown with this gaseous-based devil fruit monster was not the greatest. All of the other fights in this arc really hit for me on a level that I was just like, I don't care. Luffy's had enough great fights. I'm happy to let other people have great fights. And the final highlight I really want to get into is going to be Law. Law here was really just like stealing the show. I didn't find myself paying a ton of attention to the character work going on in the crew and the relationship dynamics there because they're so well established. It's like I'm not getting anything new. Like they're fun and great and I knew who they are, but yeah, that's just going to be what it is. Whereas Law felt like a very welcome new presence that I'm hoping sticks with us for a long time in this new segment. I enjoy him. I do not trust him. I love where he's leading the crew, where I also dread what underhanded move he might be making, because in character, I love it, oh my god moment, we have people warning Luffy like, hey, pirate alliance might not be the best idea, but Luffy's is like, Law, what's up, dude? Let's form an alliance! And with this bleak backdrop happening, it kind of felt so appropriate to have this juxtaposition of Luffy signing on board with this like dead landscape being where they are. It's like, oh man, there's some real impactful worming in by Oda that just works. And let's talk about his ability to worm in, because we also had, again, another emphasis on how much has changed and developed since we actually left off 2 years ago with the reintroduction of Smoker, who is now, god damn it, what's his rank? Admiral Vice something. He's more important and he's got a really great redesign. Unfortunately, he is a total just like, everyone who needs to win a fight, beat the shit out of Smoker. We're gonna beat the shit out of Smoker. Great. So it kind of like ruined him in a physical sense. I don't really see how I could possibly find him intimidating, but I still really liked his character in the arc he went through here, where he's actually first setting out to try and capture Luffy on this island where the distress signal has come from and everyone's convening to, but by the end, he's a part of this alliance and he's being attacked by Flamingo, who is now actively hunting our crew as they're going off to try and take down one of the emperors. Oh damn! Like things are escalating and getting there. But now we need to talk about the problems of Punk Hazard and what drags it so far down. First, of course, this is the most subjective thing ever. It is humor, but maybe 10% of the jokes landed here for me, largely around Frankie. The body swapping, though, was really just an excuse for Oda to do a lot of exploitation of his female characters, and I just did not love it. Sanji is now firmly in last place of the crew for me, just because such a core part of who he is as just now being a pervert, which I get it if you still like Sanji. I'm hoping that later on his character can be redeemed for me, which a lot of people have promised, but I'm just not feeling it here. And in addition to that, yeah, the main villain wasn't the best personality-wise and suffered a bit from just villain of the weakness. So again, like when it came down to Luffy's final fight, I was like, eh. And this is a major setup arc and felt far too long once again. Several points during me reading this, which I've completely abandoned the anime at this point, except for occasionally it's like checking in for an episode to see, you know, okay,
what are they doing to represent this stuff?
This felt probably the poorest paced arc to date. And then there was the promised threats that were feeling very intimidating on the page, like this giant warfare, felt like a WMD introduced with this slime ball, combined with the fact that we have children who are being experimented on and finally like chemical weapons. All of it felt very intimidating, but at the end, dropped. Like it just was like, and that really put a damper on hindsight what I thought of this arc as a whole. Because again, it was clearly an excuse to set up a lot of what was to come without actually caring about what needed to be done here to justify this gargantuan page count. So interestingly enough, I have a sneaking suspicion that while getting through Punk Hazard a first time wasn't too bad, this might be the worst arc for a reread because of how unnecessary so much of it feels, to the point where I don't know what the f these guys' purpose was at all. Just wasted characters. And honestly, like, you know me and kid characters, so everything that was about these kid characters was just, you can experiment on them, I don't mind. I'm kidding. Don't experiment on children too much. The funny thing is, someone in the comment section is going to take that really serious. It's really unfortunate for me that the biggest weakness One Piece has been consistently displaying has been in the humor. Because again, it's like such a vital core part of the tone and the character interactions. So when Sanji is suddenly perving out over being put in Nami's body, I'm just like, dude, can we move past middle school? This feels so middle school right now. Fortunately, there are still things to enjoy in those moments, like Frankie being in Chopper's body is goddamn hilarious. Like, I loved those moments and want to give a massive shout out to Vic and Vang, the characters so clearly through each other's bodies. Like, it is such an impressive demonstration of an author to be able to write people within others' bodies and have this mixture of the original physicality with the dialogue and brain of the other. But again, this was another thing that by the end of the arc, I was like, why? So a couple of things I want to add after watching the Grand Line Reviews videos on this arc, which I usually do after recording my review, and I recommend you check out as well because that guy makes outstanding One Piece content. But he reminded me of a couple things I wanted to bring up. One, there's a dragon fight! How did I forget to bring that up? Yes, we get an outstanding dragon fight at the beginning that I very much so enjoyed. We also have a more lethal arc in some ways than we've seen before, more direct killing and things like that happening on the page, and it's just kind of setting, I guess, the tone for this new era of One Piece, and that did not occur to me till I saw the Grand Line Reviews video, so thank you for that. And then finally, there's that samurai character, which I guess just didn't make too much of an impact on me because I didn't have many notes. And so in the end, I guess I do want to note, though, I am curious about their future as they are a part of this, mission that Luffy and Law are going off on now in their alliance. But yeah, within the page, they weren't as useless as, say, these guys, but this samurai kind of left me wanting more and very curious about their purpose and why they've been introduced. Oda just feels distracted in these last couple arcs, and if I was just going to do a total shot in the dark guessing of why, he's planning a lot down the road that he's trying to set up here, and the end result is what we're getting early on post-timeskip is very disjointed. It's that same problem where there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle I like, but the end vision is just not fitting well. Overall, I'm feeling a very strong 5.5, but you have to remember that score is averaged out. There are definitely elements here I really liked, and number one is going to be the landscape. This actually might be my favorite landscape of One Piece because it's inventive. The backdrop stands out from any other island in terms of just being so bleak and dreary. What's happening there reflects the landscapes, and what is being set up, like those moments where alliances are forming, feel dangerous because they're being done here. This is a cursed landscape, it felt like to me. And my least favorite thing in this whole arc is, again, Sanji. I just don't like him. I also wish Nami and Robin had been given more to do. I mean, they were always like present and being a part of it, but often One Piece is kind of relegating these two who have so much potential always, especially Robin in my opinion, to just support, when some of my favorite arcs have been like when Robin takes the forefront because she's so compelling as a character. Her backstory is probably the best backstory of anyone in the crew aside from Luffy, and now she's just not getting the spotlight in a way I feel like she deserves. I will say though, I was wrong on the Usopp hate. I like Usopp quite a bit now, I will admit that. He's not just hot, he's hot and cool. You win. So yeah, narratively one of the weakest One Piece arcs, but having a lot of the support underneath that narrative, elevating it and preventing it from being a complete disaster. But let me know what you think of Punk Hazard in the comments down below. Law is probably my favorite, or at least in top 5 non-crew member characters now. Wow, I cannot wait to see where this guy leads us, and look forward to next week's review. I'm sorry that I missed last week. This is just a long arc, and I have a lot of things going on behind the scenes, so I wasn't able to read it till now, and I want to take my time and enjoy One Piece, so I hope you can understand that. Have a good one, y'all. Bye!